Yes, good evening, everyone.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Are you able to see the presentation? Yes. Hello?
We can see the. Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, in the previous session, probably we were discussing with respect to innovation management, right? So, how to become a management innovator and how can we commit to a big problem, search for new principles? Could unbureaucratic management or principles be of help? And we were looking into a few management phrases, right? So today, let us look into another phrases of management that deals with exploit the power of analogy. How can that be done? Then another phrase, get the rubber on the road. Let's look into those. And then we'll be starting with a new topic that is sustainable management. After innovation management, we'll look into sustainable management. What do the sustainable managers do? Who are the sustainable managers at all? What is the importance of sustainability management for business? And are they a must for all the companies, all business houses, right? So let us now look into the first management phrase, that is exploit the power of analogy. Now, the power of diversity, self-organizing teams, we were into the belief that these are innovative notions, right? But then that's not so very often. Each of those important management ideas, they were suggested somewhere. Which management ideas? The power of diversity, self-organizing teams, and things like that. They were suggested in the writings of Mary Parker Follett, a management innovator whose life was bracketed by the American Civil War and Great Depression. Now, let us consider a few of the far-sighted management tenets in Follett's book that was first published somewhere in 1924. She said that leadership is not defined by the exercise of power, but by the capacity to increase the sense of power among those who are led. The most essential work of a leader is to create more leaders. We are aware that a win-lose decision making is shocking for all concerned. Argumentative problems are best solved not by imposing a single point of view at the expense of all others, but by striving for a high-order solution that integrates the diverse perspectives of all relevant constituents. A large organization is a collection of local communities, and individual and institutional growth are maximized when these communities are self-governing. So, with these insights that were brought by Follett, these unconventional insights, it didn't come from a survey of industrial best practices. That's why I'm not having them on the presentation. They grew out of her experience in building and running Boston-based community associations. Vested with little formal authority and faced with the challenge of merging the competing interests of several complaining constituencies. Now, Follett developed a set of beliefs about management that were frankly different from those that prevailed at the time, and is so often the case with innovation. A unique vantage point yielded unique insights. So if your goal is to escape the straitjacket of conventional management thinking, it helps to study the practices of organizations that are decidedly unconventional. Right? Now imagine, for instance, an enterprise that has more than 2 million members and only one criteria for joining. You have to want in. It has virtually no hierarchy, yet it spans the globe. The world's headquarters has fewer than 100 employees. Local leaders are elected and not appointed. There are neither plans nor budgets. There is a corporate mission, but no detailed strategy or operation plans. Imagine. Yet, this organization, it delivers a complex service to millions of people and has thrived for more than 60 years. What is it? Alcoholics Anonymous, AA. It consists of thousands of small self-organizing groups. Two simple warnings that inspire AA members are get sober and help others. Very straightforward, very simple, very sweet. Organizational cohesion, it comes from adherence to a 12-step program and observance of the 12 traditions that are outlined in the group's operating principles. So just how far can you push autonomy and self-direction in your company? Is there some set of simple rules that could simultaneously unleash the local initiative and provide focus and discipline? So here's where we take the example of Bangladesh's Grameen Bank. That is another spur to innovative management thinking. The bank's mission is to turn the poorest of the poor into entrepreneurs. To that end, it makes microloans. The term is microloans to 5% syndicates. Imagine the number of members, 5%. 5% syndicates with no requirement for collateral and a little in the way of paperwork. Now, borrowers use the funds to start small businesses such as basket weaving, embroidery, transportation services, and poultry breeding. 95% of the bank's loan go to the women who have proven to be both creditworthy borrowers and astute business people. Microcredit gives these women the chance to improve their family's well-being and their own social standing. The Grameen Bank had provided funds to more than 4 million borrowers. Isn't it a bit odd that a desperately poor woman in a developing country has an easier time getting capital to fund an idea than a first-level associate in your company? So if Grameen Bank can make millions of unsecured loans to individuals who have no banking history, shouldn't your company be able to find a way to fund the glimmer in the eye projects of ordinary employees? Now, that would be a management innovation. So what's the lesson for would-be management innovators? Every day, companies bet millions of dollars on risky initiatives. New products, new ad campaigns, new factories, big mergers, and so on. History suggests that many projects will fail to deliver. Right? That's what history has told us. There are records to say so. Is there a way of guarding against the hubris and optimism that so often inflate the investment expectations? Now, one potential solution would be to create a market for judgment, right? Create a market for judgment that harnesses the wisdom of a broad cross-section of employees to set the odds on a project's anticipated returns. An executing sponsor would set the initial odds for a project to achieve a particular rate of return with a specific time frame. Let's say those odds are set, they get set at 5:1, meaning that the sponsor believes that a 5:1 chance that a project will deliver the anticipated returns. Employees would then be able to bet for against that outcome. If many more employees bet against the project than for it, the sponsor would have to readjust the odds. So while a CEO could still back a long shot project, the transparency of the process would reduce the chance of investment decisions being overly influenced by the sponsor's power or personal persuasiveness. Who would have thought that bookies could inspire the management innovation? Your challenge is to hunt down equally unlikely analogies that suggest new ways of tackling the thorny management problems. So with this, now let us move on to the next management phrase, get the rubber on the road. It's okay now that you are inspired. You have some great ideas for management innovation. Now, to turn your precedent busting theories into reality, you need to understand exactly how your company's existing management processes, they exacerbate that big problem you are hoping to solve. Now, here's where one can start answering a few questions with respect to the management process. Now, these questions could be, what are the objectives to be achieved? What are the success metrics to be reached? Who are the customers of the entire management process? Who gets to participate? What are the data for information inputs for this process? What analytical tools are used? What events and milestones drive this process? What are the decision-making criteria? How are the decisions to be communicated and to whom? And how does this process link to other management systems? So after documenting the details of each process, one can assemble a cross-section of all the interested stakeholders, such as the process owner, the regular participants, and anyone else who might have a relevant point of view to contribute in the process. Now you can ask each one of them to understand the process in terms of what could be the impact on the management challenge, the management problem, the management toughies that you are pointing to arrive at a solution at, right? For example, if the goal is to accelerate your company's pace, that is speed of strategic renewal, you may conclude that the existing capital approval process, it demands an unreasonably high degree of certainty about future returns, even when the initial investment is small, right? Only then it is possible for you to accelerate your company's speed of strategic renewal. Now, this frustrates the flexible reallocation of resources to new opportunities. One may find that the company's strategic planning process is elitist in that it gives a disproportionate share of voice to senior executives at the expense of new ideas from people on front lines. Now, this severely limits the variety of strategic options your company considers. Perhaps the hiring process, it overweights the technical competence and industry experience compared with lateral thinking and creativity. Other human resource processes may be too focused on ensuring the compliance every now and then and not focus enough on emancipating the employee initiative. So what's the net result? The company is earning an okay return on its investment in human capital. You have the necessary human capital, but you're not utilizing it to the fullest extent. So a deep and sensitive and a systematic review of your firm's management processes will reveal the opportunities to reinvent them in the ways that furthers your bold objectives. Of course, you are unlikely to get permission to reinvent a core management process at one go. You won't be allowed to do so. You won't be getting the necessary permissions, however toxic it may be. So like renowned social psychologist Elton Mayo, who some 80 years ago conducted human behavior experiments in the Hawthorne works of a Western electric company, you will have to design low-risk trials that let you test your management innovations without disrupting the entire organization. So that's what it's trying to say. Get the rubber on the road. Okay. Make the low-risk trials. Test your management innovations without disrupting the entire organization. That may mean designing a simulation where you run a critical strategic issue through a novel decision-making process to see whether it produces a different decision. It may mean operating a new management process in parallel with the old process for a time. Let both of them run side by side. Maybe you will want to post your innovation on the internal website and invite the people from across the company to evaluate and comment on your ideas before they are put into practice. So this is wherein you can be getting the opinions of n number of internal stakeholders. Now the goal is to build a portfolio of bold new management experiments that has the power to lift the performance of your company ever higher above its peers, right? So most organizations around the world have been built on the same handful of time-tested management principles. Given that, it's hardly surprising that core management processes like capital budgeting, strategic planning, and leadership development, they vary only slightly from one company to another. The rest, they are the same everywhere. Although we sometimes affix the dinosaur label to chronically underperforming companies, the truth is that every organization has more than a bit of dinosaur DNA lurking in its management processes and practices. So there lies the culprit, right? In the corporate ecosphere, there are little dinosaurs and big dinosaurs, but no company can escape the fact that with each passing year, the present is becoming a less reliable guide to the future. While there is much in current management that will undoubtedly be valuable in years to come ahead, but there is also a great deal that will have to be changed. So far, management in the 21st century isn't much different from the management in 20th century. Therein lies the opportunity. You can wait for a competitor to stumble upon the next great management breakthrough, or you can become a management innovator right now. In a world swarming with new management challenges, you will need to be even more inventive and less tradition bound than all those management pioneers who came before you. So if you succeed, your legacy of management innovation will be no less illustrations than theirs. So that's where we conclude with the topic of management innovation or innovation management. And now we move on to our next topic, that is sustainable management. Now, sustainable management, it takes the concept from sustainability and it synthesizes them with the concepts of management. It is said to have 3 branches in total. The environment, the needs of present and future generations, and the economy. So you can see that it's a blend of sustainability and management. Now, using these branches, it creates the ability of a system, a business system, to thrive by maintaining economic viability and also nourishing the needs of present and future generations by limiting the resource depletion. Because resources are scarce in nature in any economy. So from this definition, sustainable management has been created to be defined as the application of sustainable practices in the categories of businesses, agriculture, society, environment, and personal life by managing them in a way that will benefit current generations and future generations. Now, sustainable management is needed because it is an important part of the ability to successfully maintain the quality of life on our planet. Sustainable management can be applied to all aspects of our lives. For example, the practices of a business could be sustainable if they wish to stay in businesses, because if the business itself is unsustainable, then by the definition of sustainability, they will cease to be able to be in competition. Now, communities are in need of sustainable management because if the community is to prosper, then the management has to be sustainable. Forest and the natural resources, they need to have sustainable management if they are to be able to be continuously being used by our generation and future generations. So that's where sustainable management plays a role. Our personal lives also need to be managed sustainably. This can be by making decisions that will help sustain our immediate surroundings and environment. Or it can be by managing our emotional and physical well-being side by side. So sustainable management can be applied to many things, as it can be applied as a literal and an abstract concept. Meaning, depending on what they are applied to, the meaning of what it is can change. Now with this, we now look on to what is a sustainable management then. Now research tells us corporate sustainability can be both strategic and profitable to businesses. But how do employers actually complement effective sustainable business initiatives? So creating value from sustainable management is not a quick and an easy process. That's why organizations need professionals who can thoughtfully develop and put into action sustainable initiatives that gets the results. The challenge is finding professionals with the right set of skills and experience. Now, sustainable management, that's where we can say that it is an intersection of business and sustainability. It is a practice of managing a firm's impact on three bottom lines: the people, the planet, and profit, so that all three can prosper in future. Sustainable management supports a business's long-term viability because it is preventive rather than reactive. It can take many forms, including investment in fair trade products, reducing the packaging materials, and ensuring human working conditions at the supplier factories. So a growing number of organizations from a wide range of industries, say for example, retail industry, food and beverage industry, agriculture, tech industry, insurance, automotive, military, healthcare industry, utility, and many more. They are pursuing sustainable management business goals. Because the organizations most often noted, they are noted for their sustainable efforts, they are the top global corporations. It's easy to forget that smaller and more local companies are also focusing on sustainability, apart from the global corporations. Say, for example, Wisconsin-based companies such as the Kohler, the GE Healthcare, the Johnson Controls, and the Oshkosh Corporation, they have staff who support and contribute to sustainability goals that positively affect the communities within the organization and external to the organization and the planet thereby. So now let us look into what do these sustainable managers do. Now sustainable managers, they drive sustainable business efforts at their organizations. These professionals are long-term thinkers, agents of change, and ambassadors with a vision. Now, depending on the size of the organization and their position, these managers can be held responsible for a set of tasks. So let us look into them one by one. First is ensuring compliance with the environmental regulations. It is a must in order to ensure sustainability for the public at large and the future generations. Then researching into sustainable policies and initiatives. So that will help the organization take care of its social responsibilities. Setting sustainability performance goals that are strategic and ambitious. Now, it's not without, unless and until you have the adherence to sustainability as one of the goals, in your strategy, it won't be possible for managers to pursue that goal down the hierarchy. And hence, it's a must that setting sustainable performance goal, they are set at strategic levels itself so that they can percolate within the organization hierarchy. Proposing the initiatives as well as the business case for sustainability to leadership. Again, the leaders have to take the necessary initiative to push the sustainability throughout the organization. Business awareness of sustainability programs within the company, they have to be conducted on an ongoing basis. Project management initiatives and leading a team that implements them. It shouldn't be only on the strategy and policy alone. It has to come into action. Measuring and reporting the effectiveness of sustainable initiatives. Till the time you measure and till the time you report how these initiatives are becoming effective over the period of time, and you convey the reports to the people who are connected or concerned with them, the stakeholders of business, they won't further motivate the stakeholders to participate in sustainable management. So sustainable business leaders they use a range of knowledge and abilities to perform their jobs. First and foremost, they must be able to solve complex business problems such as sustainable development by applying systems thinking or analyzing the whole systems by looking at how the component parts of the system interact with each other. They also must understand the basic economics, marketing, accounting, and law, as well as how to assess and interpret the social, scientific, and business related information. Additionally, sustainable managers must be effective communicators and leaders because they may lead a team, engage with varied departments, sites, and stakeholders, and present to diverse audiences. So now let us look into understanding what the sustainable managers do. Let us see who are these sustainable managers, right? What are the different roles by which they could be called in any organization? Sustainable managers, they come from very diverse backgrounds. Now, since they need knowledge and skills in many subjects, including business strategy, economics, and environmental science, they may start out in a number of fields and industries. Sustainability related positions, they are new to the workplace. So no standard title as such exists for sustainable managers across the industries. If one searches for how many full-time sustainability professionals exist, we come to know or we find that a relatively small number of high-ranking employees that are working at some of the largest corporations in the world. And these sustainable managers, they report directly to the CEO, Chief Executive Officer. If a professional's sole responsibility is sustainable management, then in that case, they could be called by different titles like the Chief Sustainability Officer, Global Director of Social and Environmental Affairs, Head of Sustainability, Vice President of Corporate Responsibility, Environmental Program Managers, and so on and so forth. So most professionals that are tasked with the leading sustainable business initiatives, they take it on in addition to another role, and they may not have sustainability in their title at all. So In some of the major corporations, you might find separate posts being held for sustainability managers that are called by the varied names. But in many times where within smaller organizations, this role of sustainable management or sustainability management is carried out by a manager who is handling the business initiatives in a role of, in a post of any other manager, right? So the word sustainability might not appear in their title. They might start with smaller projects, such as managing raw materials through a supply chain or helping their department to go paperless, and grow their sustainability role from there. Some companies approach sustainability through risk management departments that have professionals that are dedicated to safety and environmental issues. So after gaining experience in sustainable management, some professionals, they receive title extensions. For example, in UW Sustainable Management graduate, one of the employees, Amy, she was a materials science lab manager. After graduating, her employer added sustainability manager to her title. Organizations tend to hire full-time sustainability professionals once they decide to formalize a sustainability strategy that will save money or otherwise benefit the company. And the research shows that these hires are usually from within the organization itself. So sustainability professionals, they tend to move from departments such as external affairs, operations, research, marketing, or environment, health and safety. So finally, companies that want to reap the benefits of sustainability and need sustainably minded people, right? A study stated that encouraging employees to support a culture of corporate sustainability is essential to maintain its momentum. But in reality, it can be difficult and sometimes even costlier for organizations to gain that amount of support. So for that reason, professionals with existing knowledge of sustainable management and who are willing to challenge the status quo are invaluable to have on staff. So now let's look into what is the future for sustainable management. So there are more opportunities in sustainable management than one can realize. Even in current workplace, one can ask around, are there full or part-time positions that are dedicated to corporate sustainability? Sometimes sustainable management professionals, they need to carve out roles for themselves. Would leadership support a pilot sustainable business initiative? To get the real world business skills you need for these kinds of positions and projects, you might consider earning a bachelor's or even a master's degree in sustainable management, right? So that's where the future for sustainability management lies in. Now with this, let us look into the importance of sustainability management for business. The first is, we can see on the slide that the green consumer, that is a strategy to be implemented for n number of business organizations in order to create a brand value and build public trust. That's where GE saw an increase in its brand value by more than $6 billion, right? Second reason is, it is a new norm in today's competitive market. 81% of S&P 500 companies, they have published sustainability reports since 2015. Then third reason is deploying effective sustainability management means big savings in long run. So sustainability management can appear to be expensive to introduce, to have a continuous practice in business houses, but surely it is going to result eventually into major savings in long run, considering the competitive market environment. And fourth reason is it helps businesses meet the compliance by streamlining the tracking, evaluation and improvement processes in energy uses, right? So every business management, they have to be compliant with the utilization of the energy resources nowadays, and this goes into the reports of business houses. So that's where the importance of sustainability management for business. Now let us look into a study, a research that was being conducted with respect to sustainability managers. Now the research titled, "Are sustainability managers now a must for all the companies?" So let us look into what does the research tell us. Unlike other professional figures, be they traditional part of the world of work or positions that are required by law, the role of sustainability managers is as a relatively recent creation. Still, it is being defined in both the Italian and the European legislation. The main job of any sustainability manager is to help companies to change to a model where sustainability becomes the main development driver within their organizations. Sustainability managers need to be able to reconcile standard business operations with innovative activities that are required by the changing world and to lead their organization through these changes. As a result, it is vital that sustainability managers, they have a comprehensive understanding of their company and business sector, and they are able to manage conflict, maintain good relationships with the community and institutions, and motivate and develop the workforce, as well as having a solid grasp of economic and legal matters, particularly as regards the environmental sector is concerned. Now, the research says, with respect to the origins of, it has something to say with respect to the origins of a sustainability manager. Now, some 3 years ago, the World Business Council for Sustainable Development President and CEO Peter Becker, he claimed that the role of the corporate social responsibility, that is the CSR manager, could take on secondary importance if the companies adopt sustainability as their business-wide strategy. Now, this was a secondary yet essential effect of the directive 2014-95 EU, a complex piece of legislation which essentially made it compulsory for public companies or any company with more than 500 employees to expand their reporting activities to include a non-financial declaration containing information on the environment, social issues, staff, human rights, and the right against corruption. Now, this was the moment, the very moment that sustainability reports, they became a part and parcel of company life. Yet it may just end up being much more than that. It could be the start of a new phase for the very concept of corporate sustainability. So let us now look into a survey that was being conducted. Now it spoke about what does your standard sustainability manager look like in Europe. According to Sustainability Managers in Europe Today survey, which was carried out in 7 European countries, that is Germany, France, Great Britain, Spain, Italy, Serbia, and Turkey, the majority of sustainability managers, they were female, right? They were aged between 41 and 50, and they have built up a solid amount of professional experience, usually between 6 and 15 years. So that's where it speaks about the sustainability managers in the 7 European countries. So the sustainability managers, they usually work with very small teams, with nearly half, that is 47% of the teams consisting of not more than 2 people, and 79% comprising with 5 or less. So Great Britain and Germany, 2 countries that have always been seen as being at the cutting edge of the field, are the exceptions to the rule, boasting teams featuring more than 10 people in 23% and 21% of the cases. Now, the average pay for sustainability managers is still significantly lower than the equivalent figures in other areas. With 79% of the survey participants earning under 1 lakh pounds, right? 34% earn less than 50,000 and 45% earn between 50,000 to 1 lakh pounds. So now with this survey, let us look into what are the responsibilities that are taken care of by a sustainability manager. Now, what are the areas do the sustainability managers work in, and what are the future challenges? 53% of these sustainability managers, they are active in the field of reporting, with 27% active in voluntary reporting and 26% in compulsory reporting. So meanwhile, 54% of those surveyed, they were involved in devising and implementing social and environmental policies. So that percentage is likely to rise in future, given that 62% of the sustainability managers surveyed, they identified climate change as their biggest challenge for the future. So this far outstripped and the second most popular answer of demographic change that was selected by just 33% of those who were surveyed. So that's where the responsibilities of the sustainability managers has a wide scope in the future with respect to managing or sustaining the environment as such, with respect to the compliance that was being made compulsory, a part and parcel of the company life with more than 500 employees. And that's where information on the environment, the social issues, the staff, human rights, and the right against corruption, okay, is required to be stated in the reports, which are made compulsory by the directives. So that's where the importance of sustainability management with respect to global companies. And that's where your need to understand what sustainability management exactly means and why it is essential in today's global businesses in order to have their brand along with the others, those with whom they are competing, right? So thereby the importance of sustainability management and their inclusion in your syllabus of management fundamentals. So yes, class, that's where we stop over here for today. And I think we are almost done with unit 1 of management fundamentals. So next time, probably with some MCQs, some revision of the slides, we'll then be starting with unit 2. So that's all for today.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. Have a nice weekend.
You too, ma'am.
Yeah, sure. Yes, someone has passed on some message on the chat.